With a look at the upcoming episode is host Nathaniel. Nate, thanks so much for being here.
Always good to be here. Welcome back.
Well, thank you. And the show's been off for a couple of weeks. So much has happened across the province. We have a possible CFL lockout or tornado touchdown. And also see you're rubbing shoulders with the Prime Minister this week in Saskatoon for the announcement for the long-term care funding. What was that experience like?
It was interesting. I mean, given that it's, I guess, Saskatchewan, there were around 20 protesters outside protesting various things, not all related or at all related to what he was talking about inside, which was $32 million for long-term care funding. Welcomed, by the way, by the Saskatchewan Party. Minister Everett Hindley was there. Interesting, too, though, some fellow reporters and I were asking him questions on a couple different topics, one being gun control following what happened recently in Texas. And he grew quite emotional, speaking about how he, as a parent, needs to tell his 3 kids what happened. And he mentioned how he used to be a teacher, too, so he empathizes there. He also said, I asked him what his province would, what his government, would do on handgun control, because so far they've mostly left it up to cities to handle that. He said they'll have an announcement on that in a few weeks, so we'll see what comes from that.
Yeah, and how long were you following him? Was it all day or just for a little bit?
I was there just for the morning announcement. That was at, we had to get there with the security. When the Prime Minister shows up, you need to get there a little bit early so the security people can check you out and make sure you're okay. I was there just for the morning. He had some other photo ops in the afternoon that I wasn't able to attend. We were there, though. One of our photographers was there. I had to write for our evening broadcast, so I couldn't make all of it.
Yeah, and he's known as the PM of the selfie. Did you get a selfie with him at all, or no?
I did not get a selfie. Not quite appropriate, I guess, for a reporter.
So let's talk about this week's episode of Focus Saskatchewan. What do you have on deck for us?
So yeah, this week we have an in-depth interview with a residential school survivor who met the Pope, who heard his apology in Rome, and who says the Pope should visit Saskatchewan. Marianne Daywalker-Peltier was the longest-serving chief in the country before she retired. She was part of the delegation to Rome, where she presented the Pope with a pair of children's moccasins. She says she wants the Pope to bring them back to the province. It's been more than a year now since the grisly discovery of unmarked graves at the site of the former residential school in Kamloops, and it's been only about 11 months since the findings of hundreds of remains at Cowessess here in Saskatchewan. Daywalker-Peltier tells us what the apologies from church leaders means to survivors and what this whole thing means for the process of reconciliation.
Being sorry is one thing. Sorry comes with action. And I think we're always looking for what kind of action is the church going to provide in the future?
She also tells us if she expects to get the moccasins back. Now, the rest of the show is a bit lighter. We speak to artists about their unconventional projects and how their art reflects their communities in and around Regina. And a food artist shows us how she finally got her kids to eat their fruits and explains what it's like to receive international attention for it.
And always, Nate, it sounds like a great show. Now, while I got you here, any sneak peeks of other stories you're working on for the rest of the Focus Saskatchewan season?
Yeah, well, that's kind of an easy answer. We only have one episode left, actually, our season finale. It's another special focused entirely on the overdose crisis. We have some fantastic interviews with people who haven't spoken publicly before, and new voices and new perspectives on the issue. And I'm very excited to show that to everyone once it's ready. That's June 4th.
That sounds great. Nathaniel Dove, host of Focus Saskatchewan. Thank you, as always, for joining us this morning.
It's my pleasure.
You can watch the latest episode of Focus Saskatchewan Saturday at 6:30 p.m. right here on Global. And more of Global News Morning continues right after the break.
Thanks for joining us. Saskatoon City Council is set to wrap up budget talks tonight. At least that's what's supposed to happen. Global's Nathaniel Dove has been keeping track and joins us now. So Nathaniel, what's the latest from City Hall tonight?
Well, as you say, we were expecting them to wrap up, but they haven't, at least not yet. It's because they've passed most items so far with little debate, which has saved all of that for tonight. Now, right now, the property tax is set to increase 3.85% next year. Elise, Premier Scott Moe has announced $15 million for the Vito Intervac Lab. and he's calling on the federal government to commit another $45 million. The funding would go towards the Canadian Centre for Pandemic Research. The lab's director says the new centre, combined with Vito's own vaccine and manufacturing facility, would make the University of Saskatchewan lab a world leader in vaccine development, if it has more funding. Now, the city and the province have made their funding conditional on whether the federal government provides support. Mo says those conversations are ongoing. Elise?